asked you to do. Thank you. It's the right way to go in, and then Kate start talking about Ilganara. Excuse me,
Mum, and today I'm going to talk to you guys about recreational abalone fishing. So I thought I'd choose that subject because I thought it's probably something that most of you guys have done with your parents at some stage because you live in Hopetown and that's what we do. So the reason why I'm doing the presentation is because one day I want to become a fisheries officer. So does anyone here know what a fisheries officer does? Yeah? Brim?
Checks to make sure people are following the rules.
That's right. So a fisheries officer makes sure that people who catch fish follow the rules. So there's lots of rules and regulations when you go fishing. Even if you're just going fishing for fun, there's lots of things that you need to do to make sure that you're doing it legally and that you're doing it respectfully so that we've got lots of fish for future generations. So you may have seen fisheries officers at things like the fishing competition or down at the jetty, and they might come along and check to see how many fish you've got in your bucket or your catch bag and make sure that your fish are the right size. So all these fish that we have in WA, most of them need to be a certain size limit, or you need to make sure that you've caught your bag limit. So no more than what you're allowed to catch. So you can go into a fisheries office and you can buy yourself a licence so that you're allowed to go fishing for mainly things like marron, crayfish, abalone, all need to have a licence. So you need to pay money and they'll give you a little card and you keep it in your wallet, and then if the fisheries officer comes along and asks you if you've got a licence, you can show him and he'll be happy. So we do have commercial fishing in Hopetown, so you might have seen down at the jetty the abalone boats coming in. So you'll know that it's a professional boat because it has LFBA written on the side, or LFBE, or LFB Fremantle. So the LFB stands for Licensed Fishing Boat. And you'll know because it's black and it has the yellow letters. Okay, so you'll know that those guys are commercial fishermen. So they're a little bit different. They're allowed to catch a little bit more than what we are, but they also have to follow some rules and they have quotas to make sure that they don't catch too many. So what the abalone fishermen are doing is they'll sell the abalone meat and they'll also sell the shell. So when you look at the inside of an abalone shell, you notice that it's got a beautiful pearly finish, and that's called mother of pearl, or nacre. And they use this beautiful shell here to make buttons and jewellery, things like that. Sometimes they'll use it to make furniture. Okay. And the difference between a recreational fisherman and a commercial fisherman is recreational fishing is when you just go fishing for the fun of it. So just for the enjoyment and just to go along and do it with your family and catch some food to eat for dinner that night or to put in the freezer for another day. So you might see people fishing down the jetty, off the beach. Even diving is recreational fishing. When you go diving for abalone or crayfish, that's recreational fishing. Okay? Alright, so today, some of the rules that we need to follow when we're talking about abalone. So this is what we're going to do today, mainly talk about abalone. Okay, so this is a really beautiful big abalone shell. Okay, has anyone ever been caught an abalone like this before with their family? Yeah? Or you might have caught a smaller one like this off the rocks. Yeah? These ones are more the ones that you guys might get when you're with your family because you can just go into waist deep water or this deep and you can get them off the rocks. But these ones are a little bit tricky because you probably need to go scuba diving for these ones or snorkeling, but you have to dive down quite deep. So you guys probably haven't gone and got them yourself, but you might have seen your mum or your dad do it. So the three different types that we're going to talk about today are green lip, brown lip and roe-eye. So I'm going to tell you guys how to tell the difference. So if you have a look on your desk, I've cut some out, and you can have a look while I'm talking about it. This one here is a brown lip, and you can tell that this one's a brown lip because he's got really big portholes and a big ridge that runs down the side like that. See that? The green lip abalone, he's a little bit smoother. See how he hasn't got the raised portholes? Nice and smooth, nice and flat. That one's a green lip abalone. And these smaller ones here, that's called a rose abalone. And they're the littlest ones. So the one way that you can tell the difference is on the rose abalone, you'll notice they've got the shell shaped like that, and the curls go this way, the whole way around. So if you have a look at your little pictures there, notice that the little ridges, they all run this way around. See the little lines? The big ones, they're a little bit different. They go the other way. See that? The ridges on these big shells go that way, curl around that way. So it's really important that you are able to tell the difference, because you might go and get abalone and you might get one like this, which is actually a brown lip, and you might think that it's a big roe-eye, like this. But then the fisheries officer might come along and he might go, that's undersized, because that's not the right one, you've got it mixed up with a roe-eye. So it's really important that you're able to tell the difference so that you can follow your bag limits, okay? So if you have a look on your desk at the ones that I've cut out for you, see if you can work out which one it is, and then turn it over and see if you got it right.
Brown lip.
And then turn it over, that's it.
Brown lip. I didn't turn it over so I can return it over. Brown lip. Who has the brown lip?
When they're alive, I haven't got any today that are alive because I'm not allowed to get them at this time of the year. But the other way you can tell is when they're alive, their little muscle that goes around the edge, it's either green, like this one, has a bit of a greeny colour to its little fringe around the edge, or a browny colour. Yes, that's right. So, abalone are reef-dwelling marine snails. So they're found mostly on all the rocks and the reefs along the WA south coast, and they're pretty easy to find around Hopetown. It's a really good little habitat for them here. Perfect little climate, and the reefs and everything is exactly the sort of things that they like to live on. So you can find lots of the shells washed up on the beaches. You might have been to 2 Mile lately after a big swell, or out to Starvation Bay and seen a lot of the shell laying on the beach. So their little habitat that they like to live in is just like what I've created over here. So the perfect little environment for an abalone has lots of this, which is called granite. So we've seen a lot of the rocks around Hopetown made out of this. Granite or limestone they like to live in. They like lots of nice, fresh, beautiful, healthy seaweed, and other things that live in the same habitat as an abalone might include things like urchin.
And there's a crab in one of them?
So you guys have all seen the spiky sea urchins washed up on the beach?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And weed, things like that. They also share their habitat with other living creatures, like when they're alive, cuttlefish, squid. What else do you think that they might share their habitat with?
Crab.
Coral, yeah, crabs, things like that. Other big shells that also have live animals inside them. And things like, even the water makes up the abalone's habitat, okay? The salt water, and what they eat is really important too in a habitat. So the main thing that abalone eat is red algae. So I tried to find some, but I'm not sure if it's the right stuff. I'll have a look for that in a minute. It's got lost in there somewhere. So when we talk about animals' habitat, it's like this called habitat. So when you guys think about your house, it's all the things that are inside your house and things that we need to survive. So food, air, shelter, and someone to raise their young. So that's why abalone like the reefs around Hopetown, because they're perfect for them to hide under and to get away from the big waves. So that's why they have this nice flat shape to them like this, nice and smooth, so that if there is a big swell, they can clamp down onto the rock and the water just washes over them like this, and it can't actually pick them up and wash them away. So that's why they're shaped like that, so that they can cling onto the reef, and if any predators come along, they can also suck down nice and tight and not be hurt. So can anyone think of any predators that abalone might have? Things that eat them? Yes, Brianna? Sharks, maybe. Yeah. Casey?
Stingrays.
Stingrays, yeah. Stingrays is a predator. Yeah. Another idea? Crabs. I'm not sure about crabs. Some of the predators that I learned that eat them is starfish, octopus, yeah, groper, people. People is definitely the number one predator, I think. So they're pretty good at getting away from their predators because they're able to clamp down tight. Okay?
Dolphins.
And I did also learn that the way that a seahorse kills an abalone, the starfish kills an abalone, is he puts his legs over the breathing holes, because these are all breathing holes on the abalone. So to kill the abalone, the starfish will clamp himself on here like this, so he'll block off the oxygen supply so that the abalone can't breathe anymore, and once he's dead, the starfish can turn him over and eat the animal that lives inside. So that's how they kill them.
That's cool.
Which I didn't know that before.
That's just the way you mind
Jenny,
it.
Yes?
I have a prototype for the abalone.
Oh, what? Sorry? A predator, yeah.
The megalodon.
Oh,
I
maybe a few million years ago.
have
So, what? Yeah,
a turtle because they eat jellyfish.
maybe. We don't have a lot of turtle that live down here, do we, in Hopetown?
Yeah,
Not that many turtle live in Hopetown. Maybe every now and then they might get washed around. So when you talk about a habitat, all the little things that make up that habitat is what's called an ecosystem. Okay, so all the things combined, all the living creatures, all the seaweed, the rocks, the water, all of that comes together to form a little ecosystem. So what we need to talk about now is the bag and the size limits for abalone, so that if you are ever out abalone fishing, you know what you're allowed to catch, and you don't get into trouble for catching too many or the wrong size. Okay? So it's really important that we look after our stocks of abalone, because if we were to go and catch way too many every weekend, there wouldn't be any left for anyone else to enjoy. And if you guys were to come back to Hopetown in 20 years' time with your kids, there might not be any left for you guys to enjoy. So what we need to do is make sure that we only catch what we need, and that we're very careful about our bag limits. Okay? Because if we all just took as many as we wanted, there wouldn't be any left for the future. So we've really got to look after our stocks. Okay? So overfishing is when you take more than what nature can naturally replenish. So you take out more than what it can naturally breed and recover, then you will end up with no abalone left at all. And they may even possibly become extinct, which means there's none left forever anymore. So in WA, the Fisheries Department has divided up into 5 different zones. So they've all got different rules. So we're in the southern zone. So we've got different rules from people that might live in Perth. Down in Hopetown, we've got some different sets of rules. So the southern zone is from the Busselton Jetty, and it goes right round underneath Hopetown, and it goes right round to the South Australian border. So it's quite a big zone. So when we also talk about zones, they have different open seasons. So you might not be allowed to go fishing at a certain time of the year, but then other times of the year you are allowed to go fishing. So down in Hopetown, we're allowed to fish for abalone only between the 1st of October and the 15th of May the next year. So any other time of the year, like now, we're not actually legally allowed to go and collect abalone off the rocks. Okay, so you need to make sure that you know what your dates are and that you're fishing within that time of the year. So the other thing that you're allowed to catch is sea urchin. I don't know if many people know that, but some people actually catch sea urchin and eat them. So that also applies for the same rules, is we're only allowed to catch the sea urchin at the same time of the year as the abalone. So our bag limits, so these little ones, the roe-eye, you're allowed to get 20 of them a day. Put 20 of them in your bag and take them home. But the big ones, the green lip and the brown lip, that's these ones, you're only allowed to get 5 of those. So you might get 2 of those and 3 of those, but together you're only allowed to get 5. Okay? Or you might get 4 of those and 1 of those, but together, combined, you're only allowed to catch 5. Okay? So the size limits is another rule. We can't catch anything that's too small because it hasn't grown to reach its full size yet. Okay? We need them to grow to their full size so that they can breed and make more abalone. Okay? So when we're measuring our sizes, we need to use a little gauge like this. So you can buy these from the diving shops. This one's only $3, so it's really cheap and easy, and you can just put a little rope around it and hang it from your dive bag, and then you always know that you've got something to measure your abalone so that you know that they're the right size. So to measure the abalone, get your gauge, okay, and the size limits, the roe-eye, the little ones, 60 millimetres. So see this little gap in here? That's 60 mils. So they need to be bigger than that little gap there. So you can see that my roe-eye that I've got is way bigger, isn't it? See that? Yeah. So that one's legal. That's legal size abalone. But say you were fishing and you got one like this. See this little one here? And you meant to measuring. See that?
It's under.
Too small. So we have
Way
to
too
put
small.
that one back. Because if you get caught with that one, it's actually against the law. It's illegal. So the big ones, big green lip and the big brown lip, they're in this big gap here. So 140 millimetres across they need to be. So see when you measure it there? Do you think that one's over or under?
Over.
Way over, isn't he? That's a really big abalone, that one. But this one, that's a juvenile brown lip. Can you see there? It's way too small.
Way.
So you need to make sure you throw that one back. So what they recommend that you do, before you take the abalone off the reef, is to measure it first. So while it's still stuck onto the reef, to use your measurer and check that it's the right size. Because once you take them off the reef, what do you think might happen?
There might be something in there.
Yeah? Well, they might wash around and they might not be able to grip back on to where they live, to their little home that they have. They might wash around in the ocean with all the swell and, you know, an octopus is something underneath them while they're getting washed around. So you need to try to measure them while they're still stuck to the reef. And then once you know that they're the right size, then you can take them off and put them in your catch bag. Okay? So you might be interested to know that a brown net like this takes 4 to 6 years to get that big, to get to legal size. So they're quite old. And they may even live up to 13 years old, a big one like that. It might be 13 years old. Alright, so what do you think might be some good safety ideas to follow while you're trying to get your abalone? Anyone think of any safety ideas? Things you might have to be careful of? Yes, Jarvis?
Look out for sharks.
Yep.
And if you go in a shark cage.
Yeah, the professional abalone divers use a shark cage, a motorised shark cage. So it's basically like a big metal frame and they go under it and it's motorised along and they collect the abalone while it goes along and it keeps them safe from sharks. Miss Connor?
I'll let you get through here. Can you make that abalone farm?
Yeah, there is abalone farms. It's called aquaculture. There's actually an abalone farm in Bremer Bay.
And,
They grow them in tanks.
and like, the octopus use the same technique as starfish to...
I think that they might. I think they probably do.
And after they're going has there been, have you seen, what's the biggest one that you've seen?
The biggest one that I've seen is probably this one here. It's a really big brownie. You can tell when they've reached full size because a lot of their little portholes actually close up. See how there's only got a few that are left open, the other ones have all closed up? That's how you can tell when they've reached full size.
Is that...
They use these little holes here not just for breathing, but they use them for reproduction and they use them for waste elimination. So basically when they go to the toilet, it comes out through those holes.
I actually have four.
So what we were talking about before, we were talking about safety, things that you need to be careful of when you're going abalone diving. So you can see over here, a lot of people use one of these. It's called a catch bag. So it's really important to use a catch bag that's like this because you can see how it's made out of mesh. The water flows through the catch bag, so it doesn't become a big heavy weight that's weighing you down. So you can walk through the water, tying it along behind you, and it's not going to weigh you down. So if you do get hit by a wave, you can just lift your catch bag up and all the water drains out. And it's not a big heavy load that you're stuck with, and when the wave comes, you might not be able to jump over the wave or get away quick enough. So you need to keep an eye on the swell, okay? And you also need to, what was the other one? Make sure that you've got your reef walking booties on and your gloves to stop yourself from getting cut on any barnacles or stepping on an urchin, things like that. That's pretty important. And if you're ever not sure whether or not it's too rough to go in to get the abalone, then you shouldn't go in. If you think, oh, I'm not really sure today, it looks like there's a bit of a swell, but I'm not sure, then you're best off to just not go in. Because it's always better to be safe than sorry. Okay. So what do you think might happen if you do get caught with abalone that are either too small or you've got too many? Yes, Fred?
You might go $5,000.
You might get a fine from a fisheries officer. So if a fisheries officer comes along and he checks your bag and you've got too many in there, they can give you a fine. So there's actually some pretty big fines for catching abalone, either out of season or that are too small. So you might be shocked to know that it's actually over $10,000 sometimes the fine. And if you sell your catch, if you're caught selling your abalone to someone, you might actually get fined as much as $40,000. So it's really important that if you catch them, it's just for your own personal use and not to sell to somebody. Okay, because only commercial fishermen are allowed to sell any fish. So even things like this, all these different fish, nanagai, jewfish, things like that, you're not allowed to sell them. You have to just use them for your own personal use. Yes, got some questions?
If I catch like a lot,
Yep.
and then like the police come, I'll probably throw like some of them out, and then I'll throw all of them out.
Yeah, the fisheries officer would probably be watching you and make sure that you're not doing that, because even that's probably illegal to catch them and then just leave them on the sand and show him what you've caught. Because the ones that you've taken off the reef and taken in your car or whatever will probably die. So it's important that you don't catch too many. Always remember that
Or I'll
rule.
probably like run to the day and put them back into the water.
Okay. Alright, so when we use the word shucken, is the word that we use when we take the abalone out of their shell. So this tool here is the tool that you need to get them off the rocks. So when you see one on the rock, you use a big tool like this, and that's how you get them off the rock like that, to prise them off the rock. Okay? Now you're not allowed to take your abalone out of the shell, so when people shuck them, it means to take the meat out of the shell so that you can eat the meat. But you're not allowed to shuck your abalone, take them out of their shell until you get home. And the reason for this is so that if the fisheries officer does come along and want to check your catch, they're still in their shell so that he can measure to make sure that you've got the right size. Another rule is that you're not allowed to ever use abalone for bait. You're not allowed to use it to catch other fish because it might spread disease through the water. So what we might do today is play a little game, and we need a volunteer to be the person who's diving in, and we need a person to be someone who might be the fisheries officer. Yeah? So remembering the rules, Bryn, maybe winding up your sleeves. You probably don't need this.
This is gonna be fun.
I want you to pretend that you've gone to the beach with your family and you want to get some roe-eye for dinner that night. I want you to go over to the little tent and get some roe-eye, remembering the rules and taking your little gauge with you. I want you to get some roe-eye and pretend that you're going to take it home for dinner. That's all right, put it in your bag. Do you want me to help you open that up? Check. Yep. So you can see that Bryn's been quite careful to check that he's got them the right size, not undersized. I've put a few in here to trick him that are a little bit small. So I'm hoping that he gets it right. Can you remember how many roe-eye a day you're allowed? 20. So is it 20 roe-eye a day that you're allowed?
Yes.
Or too small? Now, if it's just maybe for dinner at your house, it might just be you and your dad for dinner. So you probably don't really need to take 20 roe-eye, do you? Because that's probably too many to eat. So you only ever take however many you need. So if you had a big family and they were all coming around for a barbecue, then that's fine to get your 20. But if you don't think that you're going to eat that many, you only ever take what you think you need. And that means that next time you go fishing that there's still some left for next time. Alright, so how many do you think you're going to need for your dinner tonight? Do you think that might be enough? Yep. Alright, so let's have a look and see what you've got. Put them in the bucket. So Brianna, if you want to come along, a fisheries officer might say something like, they might say, you know, mate, how you going today? You've been doing a bit of abalone diving. Brianna will say, yeah, we've got a few. And then Brianna might say, oh, do you mind if I just check your catch and just make sure you've got the right amount. And you've always got to be polite. You always say, yeah, that's fine, you can check my catch, no worries. So you tip your catch out. Let's get it out of the bag. Put it in there, you can sit around if you have a check. So do you just want to give a measure of Brianna and make sure they're the right size? Let's have a check. Oh, it's just too simple. So do you want to check them, Brianna? So remembering that the row I meant to be 60 millimetres. So that one's right. That one's about size, isn't it? Yep, that one's size. Good size, isn't it? For a roller. Just. See that one? It is size, but just. So sometimes